Good morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. Lots and lots to get into on the show today. But before we do that, please do me a small favour. Make sure to drop a like on today's video. Let's try and see 500 likes on this episode. And if this is your first time watching, don't forget to subscribe as well. So the question of today is in relation to Manchester United versus Ipswich Town this evening in the Premier League. What are your score predictions? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I can see some people in the chat this morning saying it's the battle of the relegation sides. Well, I guess you're right. It's a 6-pointer at the wrong end of the table for Manchester United. 7:30 p.m. kickoff. You would say it has to be a win, wouldn't you? But, oh dear. We thought that against Southampton, didn't we? When was that? 6 weeks ago? The Southampton game? And Ahmad saved us in extra time. Sorry, or in extra time. What am I going to go for? My score prediction. I mean, let's have a look at their past 4 results. So, in the last 5 Premier League games, they lost 4-1 to Tottenham. They drew 1-1 with Aston Villa, which was a good result. Lost to Southampton, which was obviously a terrible result, and lost to Liverpool. So, they do score goals. Obviously, Liam Delap, a player we've talked about a lot on this channel, is doing really well for them this season. I think he's got like 10 goals already in the Prem, which is 8 more than Rasmus Højlund has. So he's doing well. I'm going to go... I still think we'll beat them. I think if we can't put out a good performance against Ipswich Town, then I don't know. I'll be speechless. But I'm going to go 3-1 Manchester United. I think it's going to be a bit more convincing. I hope we'll see a bit of a reaction. I hope we'll see a bit of personal pride from these players. Obviously, we've had another 200 members of staff fired, made redundant, lost their jobs in the last 24 hours at Manchester United. And you'd hope that these players would take a little bit of self-pride and realise that they're in a very privileged position. They're earning hundreds of thousands of pounds a week and they're underperforming. Whereas there's other people who might have been doing okay at their job and have been let go because we can't afford to keep them in the workforce. So I think it has to be a convincing performance tonight. We haven't won a Premier League game. We drew with Everton. We lost against Tottenham, lost against Crystal Palace. The last time we won a Premier League game was against Fulham, which was on the 26th of January. So exactly a month ago today was the last time we won a Premier League game. But if you look at our past 5 results, we've won 1, drawn 1, and lost 3. So it's not great, is it? That's... 4 points out of a possible 15. Really not good. So it needs to be a win tonight, and then we need to crack on from this and just kind of hopefully go into this next run of games with a bit of confidence. Obviously, we play Fulham on the weekend, which is a massive game. That's in the FA Cup. That is on, I think it's on Sunday, I think. Yeah, Sunday, 4:30 kickoff. Yeah. And then we have the first leg of the Europa League, which is obviously, again, a massive game. Real Sociedad away from home. So it's going to be a really, really big week for Manchester United with, is that 4 games in the space? No, 3 games within the space of 7 days. Ipswich, Fulham and Real Sociedad. All games that we need to win if we want to have any chance of winning anything this season. Obviously, if we lose to Fulham, we're out of the FA Cup. If we lose to Real Sociedad, then it's going to make it difficult, considering we're so poor at home. So if we can get a result against Real Sociedad, hopefully we can crack on with the rest of the season. But again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. What are your score predictions? Let me know below. I'm going 3-1 Manchester United. And as funny as it sounds, I think if we were to beat Ipswich Town tonight, we can all but definitely say we're not going to get relegated then. We would be 16 points ahead of them with only 11 games left to play. They're not going to get 16 more points than us in the final 11 games. It is mathematically possible, but yeah, I don't think it will happen personally. So yeah, hopefully we have a good game. Obviously, I will go live straight after. I think it will probably be about 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. UK time. So yeah, I will be going live after the game. But let's move over to some transfer-related news this morning because it is starting to come in thick and fast. And we'll start off by talking about Victor Osimhen. So this is coming out from a very reliable Tier 1 Turkish journalist. Obviously, Osimhen currently plays his football in Turkey, doesn't he? And the headline is that apparently Victor Osimhen wants to join Manchester United. So how does everyone feel about that? I do think he would be a good signing. I think if we were able to get Osimhen, if we were able to get Giovani Quenda, and able to get a good midfielder, it does take our team up a whole nother level. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people, clubs interested. But apparently he wants to join Manchester United. What do we all think about that? Let me know in the comment section. Is he the man that you think Manchester United should go for, Victor Osimhen? We know that he has a release clause at Napoli, which should make the deal a little bit easier. The release clause is 75 million euros, which is 62 million pounds. Wages, apparently he's asking for around 250,000 a week, which sounds like a lot, but I mean, when you look at our current wage bill, and this doesn't make it okay, but just to give you a bit of a reference point, we pay Mason Mount 250 grand a week at the moment, which is mind-boggling. We pay Casemiro 350 grand a week, and we pay Bruno Fernandes 300 grand a week. If I was Victor Osimhen, I would look at our wage bill and say, yeah, I should be earning around 250k a week. You know, he would be one of the best players at the club, wouldn't he? And hopefully in the summer, we get rid of Casemiro. So that'll be 350 grand, 18 million pounds a season off our wage bill. And hopefully we can do something with Mason Mount, because I don't really know what to think of Mason Mount anymore. I actually like Mason Mount as a player, but he's just never fit, is he? Is there a chance that you could sell him to a Saudi club maybe? Or maybe a club in Italy? We know that McTominay obviously went to Napoli and did really well. I don't know. Difficult situation. But we can't continue paying Mason Mount. £13 million a season we pay Mason Mount, which is just absolutely mind-boggling. But yeah, these are obviously all things for the summer, but it's not that far away this summer when you actually think about it, right? The season finishes in May. We're in March pretty much. So it's like 8 weeks until the summer. And then obviously it will be transfer window. So I would hope that Manchester United are lining up these deals now. So when the window opens, we can hopefully try and get some deals at least agreed in principle. Remember, though, that Man United usually don't sign players early on in the window because they don't want to pay their wages whilst they go on holiday. So they usually wait until like the pre-season tour. But then the risk that you have with that is if a deal is delayed, then it means that the players might then not end up going on the pre-season tour, you know? So it is a bit of a risk to do that, but that's what Manchester United do. They never seem to agree deals like in the first few weeks of the windows. It always seems to be around when they drop the kit launch. That's always what they do. They want to have a new player, a new shiny toy to bring out to sell football shirts. But yeah, I think if we could get Victor Osimhen, I'd be very, very happy with it. And it is reassuring that a tier 1 Turkish journalist has come out today saying that apparently Osimhen wants to join Manchester United. So yeah, we'll see where that one goes. Obviously, other clubs might enter the race. Arsenal might enter the race. Chelsea might enter the race. And if that happens, maybe he decides he wants to go to one of those clubs. But I think, obviously, let's be real here. Manchester United is a much bigger club than Arsenal and Chelsea, realistically. We all know that. And I think if I was Victor Osimhen, I would look at the situation at Manchester United and he will be the number 1 starting striker without a shadow of a doubt. Whereas you look at Chelsea, they've got Christopher Nkunku, they've got Jackson. They've got a couple of other players who are sniffing around who are in the first team at the moment, right? Whereas Man United, let's be honest, and I know people say, oh, you criticise Højlund a lot. Do we really think that Højlund's going to bench Osimhen? Not a chance. Højlund will be a bench player, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, I mean, when you look at the options that Chelsea have, you know, they had Neto playing as a striker yesterday. They've got Nkunku, they've got Nicholas Jackson, they've got Joao Felix. They've got like 3 or 4 players who can play in that number 9 role. Whereas Man United have got Xerxes, who's said he's not a striker and doesn't like playing as a striker, and Højlund, who scored 2 goals this season in 27 games. So Osimhen would walk into our first team. And even if you look at Arsenal, you know, people say, oh, Arsenal don't have any strikers. They've still got Kai Havertz. They've still got Gabriel Jesus. Both of them would start in our team every single week without a shadow of a doubt. They've obviously got a couple of young players as well. So, I mean, yeah, him going to one of those 2 teams, yes, you might get Europa League or Champions League football, but you're probably not going to be starting because Gabriel Jesus might start some games, Kai Havertz might start some games. So I can see why this still is an attraction to come to Manchester United. It's not because we're in a good position. It's because if I was a player in the attacking positions, I would look at the situation at United and think, well, I'm 100% going to start over Rasmus Højlund. 100%. So I would even argue that Chido Obi should be starting over Højlund now. And I assume most of you would agree with that. I just think that Højlund isn't good enough to play for Man United. And I know that might sound harsh. I know people might say, oh, he's still young. I get all of that, but he's not good enough to lead the line for Manchester United. Neither is Chido Obi at this point, but I still think that he deserves more of an opportunity than Højlund. So I don't know, maybe you disagree, maybe you think I'm being harsh, but the overall point I'm trying to make here is a lot of people will say, why would Osimhen want to join Manchester United? Well, there's three things, right? Manchester United is one of the biggest clubs in the world, the biggest brand. Your followers double probably overnight when you join Manchester United, right? So that's one thing. So brand, ego, that's one. Two, we'll pay him more probably than any other team will. Whether that's right or wrong is up for debate, but that is a fact. We'll pay him 250 grand a week. As I said, we pay Casemiro 350 grand a week. Why would we not give Osimhen 250? So we'll pay him the money he wants, and he'll 100% start in this current United team without a shadow of a doubt. And I think he would work in this United team as well. So I'm excited about this one. Let's hope that we get it done. We're crying out for a proper striker. Last summer, I said pretty much every single video that we need to sign a striker. A number 9, a proper number 9. And a lot of people were like, oh, we don't need it. We need a CDM. We need a centre-back. But for me, a proper number 9, a Harry Kane, an Osimhen, someone of that quality was the priority and should have been the priority because we don't score enough goals and we do create enough chances. There's this common myth in our fan base that we're not creating chances. But if you look at the stats under Erik ten Hag before he got sacked this season, we created the most chances out of any team in the Premier League, but we also missed the most big chances out of any team in the Premier League. So it was never the creating of the chances that was the problem. It was the finishing of them. So bringing in someone like Osimhen hopefully would solve that problem. But you can let me know in the comment section your thoughts. Everyone who has just joined the video, if you could do me a small favour, make sure to drop a like. We're trying to get to 500 likes on this episode. And be sure to subscribe as well. I'm just going to drop a link into the chat to subscribe, so go and do that now. Natty says, what is your reaction to Omar Barada publicly saying that our goal is to be in the Europa League for the next 4 years? I think it's embarrassing, but at the same time, can we really argue with that? We're 15th in the Premier League. If next season we finish 6th, which is Europa League, that would be progress. We'll have gone from 15th to 16th, 15th to 6th. Last season we finished 8th. We didn't even finish in the Europa League positions last season. We got it from winning the FA Cup. So as embarrassing as that sounds, just because we're Manchester United doesn't mean that we have a divine right to get Champions League football every season. At the moment, there are 14 better teams than us in the Premier League, just based on the table. And you could even argue that a team like Southampton came to Old Trafford 6 weeks ago and played us off the park. We lost 3 or 4-0 to Wolves, who are below us in the table. The only team that I would say we're actually better comfortably, I'm not even joking here, I'm being deadly serious. The only team that I would 100% say that we're better than is probably Leicester. And even then, they held us to a 1-1 until extra time in the FA Cup. But all of the other teams below us, West Ham, I think they beat us. Wolves, they beat us. Southampton arguably should have beat us at Old Trafford. Ipswich, we drew with. Leicester, we beat. So Leicester is genuinely the only team in the Premier League that I think Man United are better than at the moment. And I'm not even trying to be funny here. Everton were good the other day. Tottenham beat us. Palace beat us. Brentford beat us. Villa beat us. Fulham, we just about scraped a victory. Brighton are miles better than us. Bournemouth are miles better than us. Newcastle are miles better than us. Man City are, Chelsea are, Nottingham Forest are, Arsenal are, Liverpool. So we can all say, oh, what's Omar Barada talking about? It's a disgrace. But that's just the fact. That's the reality. And it's his job to get us further up the table. So, yes, it's very disappointing to hear your own CEO say that your goal is to be a Europa League side. But at the moment, I would take Europa League. If someone said to me we can finish 6th next season or 5th, I would take that in a heartbeat. 6th is Europa League, remember. So, yeah, we can laugh. We can say, what's he on about? But 6th place Newcastle have had a good season this year, haven't they? We'd all agree. they're scoring goals for fun. They've scored 46 goals and only conceded 36. They've got 14 more points than us. So we can all laugh and say, oh, it's not good enough. But the Premier League is so competitive. At the moment, this is mad, right? At the moment, there is 2 points between 10th place and 4th place. I don't remember the last time it was like this. 2 points between finishing mid-table in 10th and finishing in the Champions League positions. So it's incredibly competitive, and we're not even in that conversation because we're currently 12 points below 10th, you know? And I think that for this season, that's the most disappointing thing for me, because when Erik ten Hag left Manchester United or got sacked, we were only like 3 or 4 points off top 4. Do you remember? We were in 10th, I think, or around 10th, and we were literally 3 or 4 points off top 4, and they sacked him. Whereas now we are now 16 points off top 4. So you can see where the fall has come from. But yeah, let's see what else people are saying in the chat. Ant says, Kieran, we desperately need to improve the midfield. Bruno does not work as an 8. We need a tempo-setting box-to-box midfielder as a priority. I mean, we're looking at Angel Gomez, aren't we? So maybe he will be that person. Sokar says, Barada was talking about budgeting for the Europa League because United have been budgeting for the Champions League and spending accordingly. Fair enough. That's a good way of looking at it. But then you could argue that if you want to get back into the Champions League, you need to spend money. That's the problem that you find yourselves in. If you start budgeting that you're a Europa League side, like a Brighton, or, we're a Europa League side, like a Tottenham, that effectively means that all the other teams are going to improve faster, and you've got miles to catch up, but less money to spend. So I get what he's saying, but in previous regimes, when the Glazers were handling the footballing side, when we were out of the Champions League, they would spend the most money because they wanted to get back into the Champions League. Whereas if they're saying we're going to spend less money now, but they expect us to improve, I don't really see it. I think when teams like Brighton in the summer spent 250 million and they're in 8th place, if we're going to go and only sign like 2 players in the summer, we're not going to go from 15th to 6th. We might go to 15th to 10th. And then the next season, we might go 10th to 8th. And then the next season, we might go like 8th to 7th. You know, it could be like 3 or 4, 5, 6 years before we get back into Europe if we are going down that route. Whereas if we have an absolutely ruthless summer where we see people like, obviously, Eriksen's going to go, Johnny Evans is going to go. Maybe you listen to offers for people like Maguire. Obviously, Rashford goes, Sancho goes, etc., etc. And you see, 10 players from this current side leaving, and you go and sign 6 or 7, then I think we'd definitely be in contention to get back into those Champions League spots. But if they're saying they're effectively going to sell loads of players and then not spend the money because they need to budget differently, who knows? What else have we got in the chat this morning? Let me have a sip of my tea. Ant says we should be looking to spend smarter, not bigger. I agree with that, but I mean, Dorgu looks like a good example of that so far. I know it's very early days, but Dorgu for, was it 25 million? Let me double check. The point I'm making is Dorgu's looked really, really good since he's joined Manchester United. Now, a lot of players do look good when they join Man United. Think Mazraoui, he looked amazing, and now he looks very average. So let's hope that the rest of the team don't bring him down. Yeah, so we paid 25 million for Dorgu, pounds, which I think is looking like a good deal at the moment. So if we could, in the summer, go and get an Osimhen, that would be your big name signing, the £60 million signing. And then maybe you go and get 3 or 4 £25 million signings like Patrick Dorgu, you know? I mean, if you got 4 Patrick Dorgus, that would be 100 million. And then if you got Osimhen, that would be 60 million. So that's 160 million, right? And if you sell Sancho, Rashford, Sancho's 25 million. Rashford, I think, is 40 million, his release clause. That's already 65. Obviously, Eriksen will go. Sell Casemiro for 5-10 million. Like, if you could raise £100 million in the summer, which I think is pretty easy to do, right? You could easily go and get yourself 4 Patrick Dorgus, 25 million, relatively unknown, up-and-coming players, and go and get yourself an Osimhen. And then your net spend would only be like 50, 60 million for the season, which is not that much at all. So it's definitely doable, and I do agree with you, Ant, that the goal has to be, as you say, to spend smarter, not bigger. And that's why obviously our recruitment team are going to have to be working around the clock. Obviously on the topic of recruitment teams, actually, let me touch on this really, really quick. The headline this morning is about Christopher Vivell. So this is coming out from David Ornstein. He is reporting that Manchester United have now appointed Christopher Vivell as Director of Recruitment on a full-time basis following his successful interim spell in the position. So Christopher Vivell was responsible for bringing in people like Kone, the central defensive midfielder, Aidan Heaven and Chido Obi-Martin. And he has apparently signed a new long-term contract. He was just on like a temporary contract, but he signed a new long-term contract on reduced wages and will lead Manchester United's global recruitment operation. This guy is the real deal, so I'm excited about this. And I think giving this guy the contract, if you like, should hopefully help us identify more players. In the past, he identified people like Benjamin Sesko, Szoboszlai, Giovani out, and Haaland before they obviously got their big move. So, yeah, another one was Upamecano. He signed some really, really good players over his time. Adeyemi. So, yeah, he's definitely one to get excited about. Just seeing if there's any other players I've forgotten that he signed. Yeah, I mean, Haaland was the big name, isn't it? So, yeah, that's positive. Hopefully this window will be better. Natty says, for you, who is the better manager, Erik ten Hag or Ruben Amorim? Oh, mate, that's a difficult question. I always quite liked Erik ten Hag, to be honest, but I know it's unpopular to say that now. But I do actually quite like. I did like Erik ten Hag. I don't know why. I know he made mistakes. I know. But I actually think what he achieved in those 2 years was underappreciated. To finish third place in his first season. Remember the season before Erik ten Hag came in, we finished 8th, didn't we? And it was our worst season in Premier League history, the season that Ollie got sacked. To finish third, to win a League Cup, to win our first trophy in 6 years, get to an FA Cup final as well, lose that, unfortunately. And then the next year to win an FA Cup. I actually think Erik ten Hag was a good manager. And I think this whole thing of, we are where we are now because of Erik ten Hag. I just think it's lazy. It's lazy narrative. We are where we are now because the Glazers appointed John Murtough and Richard Arnold to handle Manchester United's transfer activities. 2 people who had absolutely no experience in football. They were bankers. They were finance people. Were given the purse to the biggest football club in the world. And, you know, when you look at all the examples of how they messed up over the years, it's mental. Erik ten Hag wanted Harry Kane, he got Højlund. Erik ten Hag wanted Kim Min-jae, he got, I can't remember who he got, someone else. He wanted Jurrien Timber, he didn't get him. He wanted De Jong, he got Casemiro. And I'm not making excuses, I'm just saying that, you know, it is quite unfair that all of the blame is now just put on Erik ten Hag, when realistically, from a footballing side, he got us third place, 2 trophies, and an 8th place finish. So, yeah, I don't know. Obviously, the biggest thing for me was the communication and as soon as he said, I can't play the Ajax way here, I think a lot of fans kind of turned on him because you sign a manager to play the style of football that they're known for, don't you? And I think as soon as he said, I can't play that style of football, obviously he meant that he didn't have the right players for it, which obviously we now understand. But it's far too early for me to say who's the better manager. I think if you're going to go by way of experience, I would say Erik ten Hag, 100%, because obviously he's been a manager for a lot longer. He's won a lot more trophies in his career. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think we're in a position to answer that question yet. But you can let me know your thoughts. Who's the better manager? And then the final story we've got for you this morning is on Giovani Quenda. So the news this morning is that apparently Manchester United are trying to agree and finalise a deal for Giovani Quenda before the summer transfer window opens. This is coming up from multiple people this morning. We obviously had a report from The Athletic, was it about a month ago, saying that Manchester United were in talks and that a deal should be done for around 40 million euros. He is still only 17 years of age. Remember, he's not the finished article. He's not going to come into Manchester United. Well, I mean, he might do. You never know. He might come in and be the next Ronaldo and light the world on fire. But, he is still a very young player who has a lot of learning and developing to do. But it looks like the deal will be done for somewhere around 35 to 40 million pounds. And Manchester United, as it stands at this point, are trying to confirm this deal and announce it before the summer transfer window officially opens. So this guy will, I'm almost certain that we will sign this player. I mean, this is obviously a hypothetical, but the only way in which I see Giovani Quenda not joining Manchester United is if, say, we lose every game now till the end of the season and Ineos decide they've made the wrong decision and decide they want to sack Ruben Amorim. I don't think this will happen, but this is a hypothetical scenario. Say we lose every single game now, we get knocked out by Real Sociedad, we lose to Fulham in the FA Cup, and maybe they decide, you know what, this isn't the guy for us. We don't want to, spend hundreds of millions of pounds building this side of a back three and then in a year's time change our mind. Because that's the biggest thing here, right? I'm fully behind Ruben Amorim, but Ineos either go all in now or in the summer, or if they have any doubt, then they need to kind of decide that now. Because we're selling all of our wingers. If you look at the wingers that we've let go, obviously Rashford's going to go, Sancho's going to go, we sold Pellistri, Anthony's probably going to go, Greenwood left, Garnacho they were trying to sell. Like, we're trying to sell all of our wingers because obviously in this formation we play wing backs, don't we? And none of those players I listed can play as wing backs. So yeah, we are having to sell off players to suit a new formation. And obviously if they then decide in a year's time that they don't like that formation anymore and they sack him, then what do we do then? What do we do if a manager comes in who wants to play a back four and we don't have any wingers? So yeah, it's a big window up ahead. And obviously I'm fully behind Giovani Quenda even. And I think he will become the first signing. So yeah, we'll keep you updated on that one. But I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Thank you so much for watching the show this morning. Tactical Devil says, Kieran, I agree with you. Ten Hag actually overperformed, but at the time we didn't see it and thought he was underperforming. Given more time, I think Ten Hag would have done even better. Yeah, I agree. And I think for me, the problem we have as a fan base, right, and I'm included in this, so this isn't a dig at any of you, is when we're winning football games, but not playing attractive football, the fans complain. We did it under Ollie. We played park the bus, counter-attacking football, and people complained because we didn't win anything, right? But we were high up in the table. Then you get a manager like Erik ten Hag, who comes in, who plays a beautiful style of football at Ajax. He loses his first two games. People are like, oh my God, what have we done? He reverts to he reverts to parking the bus. We're winning games. We win trophies. We get top four. And then the fans are like, oh, I don't like this. It's not the Manchester United way. It's not attacking enough. And then, they're calling him out. Now we've got a manager who is like, I'm not changing my ways. We know he can play attractive football, but we're losing every week. And people are like, oh, I'm not sure about this guy. So like, there's no winning. You either, as this in this current Manchester United setup, for me, the only way to win is at the moment is by parking the bus and hitting on the counter attack. I think still, right? But if we did that, even if we were in the top four, me included, I'd be like, oh, it's not really very entertaining. We just counter attacking, parking the bus, letting the other team have most possession. We're doing like what a Bournemouth would do or like what a Brighton do. And people will be like, oh, that's not the Man United way. So it's very difficult. Ideally, you want to be playing beautiful football and winning every. Tactical Devils also says, I wouldn't be surprised if Amorim gets sacked in the summer if someone deemed better becomes available. I mean, it's impossible to say until the end of the season, is it? If we get knocked out of the Europa in the next round and we get knocked out by Fulham in the FA Cup and we keep losing games in the Premier League, then anything's possible. Because I think a lot of Man United fans, me included, are still clinging on to this hope that we'll win the Europa League, we'll get a trophy in our first season, and then we'll get Champions League. But imagine we go and get battered by Real Sociedad. What's the fan base going to be thinking then? And the other thing as well with Amorim, which really interests me, is the fact that they only gave him, I think it was like a 2.5-year contract. So you might be right. But anyway, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day. I will be live after the game tonight. Speak to you all later. Bye for now.